Good afternoon, everyone. This is Trudy Hughes from the System Office, and I'm very happy to see everybody. We have a large crowd here today. We're going to have our guest speaker, Renee Macemore from Wilkes Community College, talk in a few minutes about the PHIN data collection. I just have a couple announcements to make before I hand it over to Tuesday and from Caldwell Community College. The first is the scholarships, the special recognition scholarships that we awarded this year. We had $12,500 to provide for scholarships for students with disabilities and veterans. And a special shout out to Renee Macemore and Laura Bracken, Renee from Wilkes and Laura Bracken from Surrey Community College, for assisting me on the review committee. I choose reviewers that do not have a person that has applied for those scholarships, so it will not be biased. And we had over 100 applications this year. The students that apply that are in curriculum can earn up to $1,000, and the ones from workforce continuing ed can earn up to $750. Unfortunately, we did not have anyone that qualified under continuing ed, but we did have numerous applications for curriculum. Like I said, we had over 100. So we reviewed them, and we do have a list. It is going through our person in foundations to cut the checks, and it will take about a month. Okay. After I know the colleges have received the funding and I know that the students have been informed, I will send out a notification to all of you on who were the award winners. But I've learned from past experiences that not until those checks are cut and the colleges receive that money that I'm going to do that, because I don't want phone calls. And it was split up. The funding was split up. They receive half. If they received a $1,000 award, they will receive $500 in the fall 2023, and they will receive $500 in the spring 2024. And we did have one person that we gave away 12 students that received $1,000. And then a 13th student will receive a $500 scholarship, and they will receive $250 in the fall and $250 in the spring. And because of that, the split is to make sure that they will still be students in the spring semester. So it is a year scholarship. I also want to encourage people to make sure that the directory is updated. Please go into our website. It's a Google Doc. It's really important that our information, our contact information, is updated. If you leave, please take your name off. If you know somebody coming in new, please make sure that they have that information updated. And then last that I have to say are, if you're new and you want a mentor, please let me know. And I will set you up with a mentor, and that's somebody that's close to your area, that is a college that is similar to yours in the size. And certainly, though, I am your system office representative. So anytime you have any concerns or questions, certainly you can call me, but it's always nice to talk to somebody that's in the field. Okay. So that's the last of announcements that I have. Tuesday, are you on? Do you have anything that you want to add?
I am. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Trudy. I just wanted to say hello. I am the chair for our Disability Services Advisory Board. I'm going to pop my email into the chat if anyone has any questions for the board. And like Trudy said, getting connected with a mentor, we're happy to do that. So I'll stick that in the chat for folks. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that be on the lookout. We're going to have another webinar in November. I think it's November the 16th at 2 p.m. So same time and place as today, about reasonable accommodations. So we look forward to having you join us on that day, and we'll get that sent out soon. Thanks, Trudy, for giving me the time and space to say hello to everyone. And Renee, thank you for being with us today and going over PHIN and your expertise. So we're good to turn it over to Renee?
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. So I'm actually going to share my screen so you guys can see it. I didn't create like a PowerPoint or anything. I figured it was best just to kind of walk through the PHIN screen and answer any questions you guys may have. So for our department, and every school I know does their processes and intakes differently, we use PHIN and start it when we first do our intakes. So once they're approved for accommodations, as we're putting their folder together, we actually, PHIN is part of our process in getting them before they ever go put up in the files cabinet. So PHIN is PHIN. And this is our test screen. So I was given our test subject. And I have misplaced that email. So let me find his number. Okay. So Bugs Bunny here has been through our department. We've processed his information and we just put his disability in here. So if he's deaf, we just use the drop-down menu. It did have to be changed one time. So anything that has D and U, do not use. We don't use those anymore. If they have multiple disabilities, and when I say multiple, if it's more than like 3 or 4, we just put multiple, and we might make a note in the comment section at the bottom of the screen if there's any specifics. Whatever, for us, if it's a disability, whichever one kind of gets the most accommodations, that's usually what we put as their primary. I don't know if that's the best way to go about it, but for us, that's kind of how it's worked for us. So if we had a student that was deaf and then maybe they had ADHD. So we would put in the start date is usually whatever day we enter it, whatever day we're putting it in this. We do not put an end date unless it's a temporary accommodation. It's not a, like if they've broken an arm, we would put that in there as a temporary, and we'd put an end date, or concussions. So for type, your very first one for us is always our primary. So whatever disability you put first, that is their primary diagnosis. We put, if we have a second diagnosis, that would be our secondary. We hardly ever use, if it's more than 3, you would have to put multiple. They do have a temporary, and we do use that for our temporary. We usually don't report our temporary. So this is important for the system office to know how many students in general our colleges are serving under each category. So you would put a yes there to report it. I'm not going to have Bugs Bunny go through the system office. So we just put a Y for reporting. And we just leave it blank if it doesn't need to be reported. Y'all have questions on like that part, just that first top section?
So Renee, if it's not checked under, okay, I don't know what camera I'm using now. If it's not checked under reporting, it's not being reported? Like if there's not a Y there?
Yes, it has to be a Y there.
I have a biscuit. Okay, sorry. That's new information that I don't know that I have included in anything I've done so far. So Trudy, if you're pulling reports, are you getting anything if it's not checked or not with a Y?
Heather, right now, I'm not pulling any reports. Okay, so I have not had to report to the legislators at this time. So at this point, I am not doing anything, and the system office is not pulling reports. I mean, they pull reports every month, but it doesn't come to me, okay, unless I request it.
Sorry, continue.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, I'm Alfreda. I was under the same assumption. I was told that we didn't put anything under reports. So now we are to do that.
The last I heard, I knew in the beginning they told us not to put anything there, and then I have recently been told, yes, we do need to check it so that it could be pulled. It's
Okay.
not that long ago, because it's not pulling any numbers, their reports. But it's not, I don't think the reports aren't pulling the students, it's pulling the categories of who we're serving.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Under going back to your disability categories, mine are not updated.
So we were given a training session and a booklet, and our IT department had to update it. So we have an IT person that actually does all our colleague, and he'll help us with report running and Informer, and he did this specifically.
My IT person said that I was going to have to go, that they couldn't do it, that I was going to have to go to the state, somebody in the state IT to get it done.
I think it might be different for each college, but our IT department did ours.
For our college, I changed all of ours using the booklet. Also, I was told that the report, which I had been checking yes prior to, I was told at the last meeting that I went to, that was only used for Texas reports, and I don't know why.
So where did I get the booklet?
I might be able to find it in my.
I was gonna say, I don't know where mine is right now, but it
I'm
came
not-
from the system office. So.
I'm sure I have it buried somewhere. I could find it.
Okay, if you could send it to me, that'd be great.
I think one thing people need to know is on our website, we there are recordings, and Sonia Bartlett did a webinar a couple of years ago on PHIN. So if you need resources from the system office, she is your contact person. Okay, and you can go back on our resources, and it's on the data collection, and Sonia Bartlett is the person that if you need any resources or guidebooks, she is the person that you need to contact.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this first section? So moving on to the next section, the accommodations is just that. And again, we've updated this as well, based off of that book. So we'd have to find that book for you. So whatever, assistive technology is pretty generic. If we need specifics, we'll put them in the comments down here at the bottom. The closed captions, and there's just a bunch of, we have more do not use. And then we put the same start date as the date that we entered up top. We don't put an end date unless it's temporary. And then if you have multiples or two different diagnoses, then you would choose which one of these accommodations that used. For us, typically it's all the primary. Request date or request status. We never put pending in here. So there's a pending, granted, and denied. So we don't ever put pending. We only put our students in here once they've been granted accommodations. Now, if it was a temporary and it expired, we might go in and put denied if it keeps pulling it for our reports, but typically it'll stop pulling it if you put it in date. So, and the status date, you can go in and manually change that, but typically it defaults to the date you're entering the information. We don't normally change those dates. Sorry. Just go in here. Bugs Bunny will have just a slew of stuff. So any questions on those accommodation part? And you can do multiple. So if you have more than 4, let's see, let's drop in another one. Once you're highlighted in here, you can just hit the over button and then you have more options. So if you need more than 4.
And Renee, what we're finding is most students are needing more than 4. So,
oh, yes.
Yeah, I mean, so that's an important button to look at.
Yeah. Just make sure that it changes the highlighted, make sure it's highlighted in there. That's when it'll come up. It won't give you that option until you're inside that section. And the PHIN screen is not only for disabilities, but it's also for personal health information. We don't use the immunization section, so that section we skip, and we haven't used the physical section either. And then in the comments, this is where, like, for your assistive technology, or if you had multiple diagnosis up top instead of just 2 individuals, we would put like a comment in here. Or if you had other, like there's an option for other accommodations. We use eForms, and so when it pulls it from colleague, it just says other accommodation. Well, an instructor is not going to know what other accommodation means. So we'll usually put that in this comment. So if we have to go double check it, we write that in our eForms, their accommodation letters, what that is. So it's usually like copy of notes or PowerPoints. That's what we're at. So any questions? Like, what questions did y'all have about this and how we process it?
I think the biggest thing is having to get the updates with the booklets, because I didn't go through that either. Having to go ahead and make sure that we're all on the same page with that. Now, and I like your process of putting things in as you're making the folder, but if you didn't do that, can you go back and backdate?
Yes, you can backdate it. You can go in and hand type in the date. So what if we wanted to do it 2 days ago? It'll backdate it.
Okay.
Yeah. We actually, we're really lucky. There's 2 of us. So we were able during COVID, my assistant so she would have more time, was able to get our files and put all this in. So they were backdated. And now we've just built it into our intake, like, process and getting everything done. So now everybody moving forward is being put into PHIN as we go.
One of the concerns that we had previously, that was mentioned to me was, this information being able to be accessed by other people who use Colleague. Is that still an issue?
So for us, our IT department grants certain access to certain areas of Colleague. And so the only people that have access to this is myself and my assistant, other than IT. So no one else can even get into the screen.
Renee,
I-
I'll add, sorry,
yeah.
I'll add that, you know, each individual college needs to have that conversation with those folks to see who does have access, and then have those conversations about limiting that access.
Right.
Yeah.
I see there's a question about third party, like accommodate system. I don't know if there's a way to push from accommodate to PHIN. You would have to work with your IT, your implementation department. Typically, ours is moving from PHIN into our other areas. Doesn't work the other way around. So like our Colleague and PHIN screen feeds into our accommodation letters. It pulls the accommodations because we use eForms.
What e-forms are you using?
Is this a requirement for us, for you guys, to put the disability and the accommodations in? Or just list that they have a disability? If we're using, like, say, an accommodate system where it's all kept in-house?
Can you repeat your question? Sorry.
Yeah, so I'm new and we utilize the accommodate system. So is this
Okay.
a requirement for, I guess, the NC office, that this is all listed in Colleague, so you guys are able to pull the report? Because this is the first I've heard of putting anything in the Colleague system.
So my understanding, yes, this is coming from the system office.
And I believe from the system office, and I don't know if the Perkins 5, but I just met with Perkins 5 yesterday, and they have to collect data on how many students on the special POPs. And I don't know if they specifically pull from the PHIN page, but I believe they do. And there's a number of colleges, even our larger ones, are reporting zero support and serving students with disabilities. And that's unbelievable, because we know that you guys have caseloads of 100 or 200 students. And so it is really important that the system office gets this information. We do not get identifying information. I certainly don't. That's not what comes to the system office. But they do need to know the numbers and the type of accommodations so that we can further support and, look at our student populations when we're looking at, going to the legislators and asking for more money. So it is really important that we provide accurate data across all of our colleges. And too many of our colleges are not even reporting at all. So it looks like you don't serve any students with disabilities. Oh, that's great. And that's not the case. You guys are, many of you are one person show, and we really need to advocate for what you guys do and the importance of your position and what you do every day and how many people you serve and the type of accommodations that you provide. That's really important when we're trying to get more money. And that's the bottom line. And it's not a confidential thing. When we pull records, when Datatel pulls records, they don't get the names or information like that. So
Well, we're glad that you're doing this, Trudy, because we did, and of course, for you doing this, Renee, because I think with us being, a lot of us being officers of one, we prioritize doing those accommodation letters and not prioritize putting it in the system. But now that's why I was listening to Renee's plan going forward. And me being an officer of one, I will tell you, I'm probably one of those on the list who has about 100 students who did not get any credit for that. So having to go back and backdate some things, and then also having it be a part of my intake process going forward to do it at the same time.
And Sonia, when Sonia did her webinar a couple of years ago with me, she said, don't worry about going back 5 years or anything, just go forward.
Right.
Because if you're, particularly Kathy, if you're a person of one, you can't go back 5 years. You know, that's just crazy. You're barely keeping your head above water. So if you can put it as part of your intake. But this is something that we did, you know, with Holly Wagner, when Holly Wagner was in at NC Ahead several years ago, before pre-COVID, we presented on this. I mean, this is not new. We have presented on this numerous times. And yeah, I guess it just depends on the people that were present at the time. And we do have a lot of new people coming in the system that need to be aware of that. But we certainly don't want to make more work for you. So don't think that you need to go back 5 years. You may not even know that information. Just think of it as, okay, going today forward, your intake, this is part of your process.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think that we knew about the names, but we didn't know the importance of having it in the system at the same time. So.
And there was another question about maintaining it. For example, ending accommodations no longer enrolled. So if it's not a temporary and we haven't put an end date, we don't mess with the screen afterwards. We don't touch it. If a student, say, stops out and comes back in 5 years, we run an informal report that lists all the currently registered students that are marked in our PHIN screen as disability services. And if their name pops up and we're like, well, they're not, we have a spreadsheet because we don't have a database system. If we recognize they've not been here a while, we'll go in and backdate their end date and make them come back to see us and update their documentation if needed. And that's very far and few between. We've not had a lot of those. And we have sometimes gotten students from other colleges because I think colleague reaches across. We've had some in the system that have come from somewhere else. And so that's helpful too, to kind of look at and see.
So Renee, just as this is Eric at South Piedmont, just to clarify what you just said. So you don't continuously keep putting in new dates and end dates. You just put it in the first time and leave it open-ended.
Yep, I do.
Okay.
And yeah, and even for temporary, it has a clear end date. So that's the only ones we really put an end date, and then the system takes care of itself. So Tuesday shared that iPads, the reason you have to put a Y in the report area is for iPads because it reports to them, and it's an annual report for enrollment for each school. So I would say, yes, it is important to put the Y in the report section.
I have a question though.
Yes.
So Tuesday's saying that, sorry. Hold on. So Tuesday is saying that it's for the iPad report, but my person just emailed me the other day saying, can you send me the number? Can you send me the ID numbers of your students registered with accessibility services? So what is she needing that number for? I mean, what is she needing that list of ID numbers? I
I
If
don't
it-
know, I would question actually having the identifying markers of students in register with your department. Now, I've had to share my total numbers with, for Perkins grants before, but that is my counts. That is not giving them any identifying information on my actual students.
Well, and I'm just like, I don't know. I can't remember the person she's like, it's for the iPads report. And I'm like, okay. But now you're saying that the person, I guess, who's pulling this, they can actually go into colleague and pull it.
Yeah.
I wonder, do they know that? Because this is the second time, this is the second year they've asked me for numbers so they can report it for iPads.
And I don't even know why they're asking for the identifying ID number. They should just need a count. I would
Yeah,
think.
I agree. I agree.
I'm-
You do not provide, you are the only one that should have identifying information, Samantha. So they just need to know the count, and I don't know why they need that.
Yeah.
But no, it's confidential information. That's why I don't get that information. It's none of my business. It's
Okay.
confidential. You're the only person that's supposed to know that.
Got it.
I'm going to drop a link in the chat for the what I'm talking about with the iPads. You can search your school, and there's a page when it first comes up. You can look at the general information for your school, and you can see the percentage of students who identified as a student with disabilities. So that information should be pulling from this report feature that Renee's talking about. So a lot of our colleges, when you look at this report for your college, you're going to see that it may say less than 3% of your student body. That is the default percentage if there's nothing in the system. You can see other colleges, they may have a little bit more of a percentage of that. For instance, our college, it is less than 3%, and that's because we're still working on getting the reports. But Samantha, prior to this screen and us entering this information, our enrollment management director would come to us and say, well, what's your count for the year? And we would give that, but shouldn't be the actual, ID numbers or student information.
It's coming from the director of research, evaluation, assessment planning. And that's what she said. I mean, she was like, we need the number of students. And then she said, you can give me the ID numbers that were sent through encrypted email, and then she'll cross-reference with the students, I guess, to see if they're still here, the students who are registered in 2022. I don't know. But yeah, she just kept sending that little general reminder that she needed the ID number so she could cross-reference, I guess, and submit that number to iPads. So that's very interesting. I'll have to follow back up with them.
Yeah, I think that's a great question to follow back up with them on. So
Thank you.
yeah, great question.
Any other questions on the PHIN? Trudy or Tuesday, do you have anything else you think I should cover, or?
I think you've done a great job, unless there's questions, but I think it's really important. I mean, I know when I first started, well, it's been about 5 years, and it took several years to get our IT department to approve the disability services labels. Not labels, but categories. Because when I first came in, they didn't make any sense. So it took a number of years. I mean, it was crazy. And then to change the accommodations because they had to match with certain codes and stuff. It took a lot of time and effort and a lot of thought. And it wasn't an easy process. But I think that this process, at least the categories and the accommodations make sense. And it did go through the advisory board. It was not me alone. I went through the advisory board at that time for approval to make sure that it was accurate. So it was not only my decision, but it was the advisory board. But it was a long process. And it's a process that, you know, it really is important that we put it in as an intake process so that we can justify or at least know how many students we serve and what are the accommodations that you're providing. And again, some of the colleges, people have said, well, it's not, you know, the system office is getting confidential information. No, they're not. I don't get confidential information. And I don't pull that unless I need to, unless I have to go to the legislators and do a report or a speech to support us. Then I really need it. But if colleges are not putting in information, then it looks like you're not serving students with disabilities. And I think this is really important information that you know, advertise yourself. I mean, our leaders, your presidents, your VPs need to know how many students you serve and how hard you work, because by God, you do. And you're not just disability services. Sometimes some of you guys are one man person, and your disability services and this and this and this. And it's a lot. And I think it's really important that we make sure that our people, our supervisors and our higher leaders know how hard you work and what you do. And I really think it's important to have accurate data so that we can make future decisions on, you know, maybe funding down the road. I'm not saying that there's possibilities for that, but I'm just saying it could happen. You know, those things, opportunities come my way. And if I don't have numbers, I don't have justification. Okay, that's the bottom line. So, you know, and I appreciate Renee and Tuesday for providing all this information. I don't have access to the PHIN. Okay, you have to understand that at the system office, I personally don't have that page. So it's totally in your hands to manage that. But it does go to our data source.
I would say, yeah, I forgot to mention, if you change anything, you better click the save all or it disappears. And don't accidentally put the wrong thing in here and say that's the wrong student, because that does not disappear. We've had some things where there's like one letter up there and nothing. I don't know. It's really weird.
Renee, would you just show your drop downs one more time? Just kind of open them up and start with the disability one, and then.
So ADHD, autism, blindness, and the initials is what the system office referred to.
Okay, those next couple, the ED, what is that?
The D and U is the ones that are do not use. Those are the ones that we had previously before the changes. Our IT department could not get them to delete them, so we put D and U in front for do not use.
Okay, you may have already said that. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah. And there's a bunch.
So really, this, and Trudy, you might be able to speak to this better. If we want to have our IT overhaul our PHIN screen, all of that covered. I seem to remember that do not use in Sonia's presentation, just going by memory here, but if we just give that booklet to our IT group, it has everything in there, right? How to break it all down and, okay,
Yeah, it
And
should.
that-
And then Sonia, I mean, Sonia is the person that needs to work with your IT people,
okay,
you know, so Sonia is, that's her job. I mean, and she knows this, you know, on how to report it or how to enter it and everything like that. So definitely I would include Sonia's email and have them work with her directly. Okay.
okay.
We have a really good relationship with our IT department. So I just sent the booklet to our IT person, said, hey, on this page, I need you to change our PHIN screen. We're gonna add this and do this. And he's like, okay. So, and he did it for us.
He-
So we're
he-
lucky.
He didn't really need to consult with Sonia on that. He just knew how to do it. Well, thank you for that clarification. It's helpful.
I don't see any other hands raised. Does anybody else have any questions that they want to unmute their mics and ask Renee or Tuesday? Any questions? Give it a couple minutes. And like I said before, we have a lot of new people on board, and I don't want you to be overwhelmed on, oh my God, this is another thing I have to do. Make this part of your intake process. You know, it may be another step, but it's something that, you know, is just going into the screen and is part of intake. And again, you don't need to go back 5 years or anything like that because you don't know that information. You won't know that. So, you know, as long as you can go today and forward, I think that's the best you can do. And that's the most we can expect. But I think we certainly need to do a good job of representing your colleges and the people you serve, the individuals that you serve, the students that you serve, and what you do. How many accommodations do you provide? I think it's really important. Because I know my boss, Dr. Kelly, he wants to know that information so that he can take it to state board. And it's like, okay, well, I don't have that information, you know, and it's bad if some of the colleges aren't reporting anything. That doesn't mean that you're not serving students with disabilities. Every college is serving students with disabilities. Every college has high numbers of students with disabilities on your caseloads. And so it's high time that you take credit for it. And that's how I see it. It's not a confidentiality issue, and I know it has been for some of the colleges. We don't get that identifying information, okay? But we do need the information on the numbers and the accommodations that you provide. And I only see it as a positive thing. Now, if I'm wrong, please let me know. That I don't think I am on this one. Or I wouldn't be so passionate about collecting correct data. I think decisions are determined by data. And if we don't have data, then it doesn't look like you're doing anything. And that's not correct. I know in your world, it's not correct. I know every college is doing over and above. It's ridiculous how hard you guys work. And so that's why I'm so passionate about this. And it's so important. But you know, we can't get the support unless you put in the numbers and what you are actually doing, to let your bosses and legislators and the people who make these decisions know how many people you serve and the wonderful things that you are doing for everybody. So that's my spiel. Tuesday, you have something?
No, you said it just beautifully, Trudy. I appreciate you saying all that and your support to us. I did put the link in the chat for the disability service providers so you can easily access that and make sure that the contact information for your colleges is correct. So we would very much appreciate. That's a way that we can connect to one another. That's all I got.
Well, I thank you, Renee, and for putting this on, and you did a great job. And you know, I
And I'm gonna
appreciate
give
all
everybody 10 minutes back.
Well, you are wonderful. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
And don't forget about next month's webinar in November on reasonable accommodations. So
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
you too.
Bye.